This is the Dynasty Market Report, where we look at a specific asset in Dynasty Fantasy Football and we look at where it's trading in the market and if I think you should get in low or get out at the top, or maybe it's just trading at the value that it should be. Today, we're looking at Jaxson Dart, quarterback for the New York Giants, going into his second year with a brand new head coach. Let's go through the last year and kind of get a gauge of where we think he should be at, and then we'll check the market and see where he is at. Last year in points per game, he was QB 14 as a rookie. That is pretty good. And a lot of that is because he has a rushing floor. Jaxson Dart will run throughout games. You'll get 6 to 7 rushes a game, probably going to get you around 40 to 50 yards a game, sometimes more, and sometimes a touchdown on top of that. So a lot of good, safe scoring in there. In that year that he did that, Jaxson Dart's rookie season, we saw a head coach turnover. Anytime I see that, I will assume that the stats are probably low. Teams going through a head coach turnover, probably pretty bad head coaches on the way out, and we're hoping to reset back to either the norm or just better than what they had. So I like the upside for Dart just based on changing head coaches. Now we know who the head coach is. It's John Harbaugh, who has been in the league for a long time, has been a very good coach. In a year where he finished 8-9, was let go from Baltimore. I'm not sure all of the internal reasons for that. And one of the things I do as a fantasy player is I try to remove myself from taking too much and having too strong of a take based on my own opinions of situations like this with John Harbaugh. I've seen him be a really good coach for a while. I have seen enough coaches in the past leave one job and then move to another and be okay. I'm thinking of Mike McCarthy. I thought he was good for fantasy with the Cowboys. So I think John Harbaugh and Todd Monken coming in will be better for this offense than the coaching staff that is leaving. So I like that as a plus for Dart going forward. The year that Jaxson Dart had also did not have Malik Nabers. Malik Nabers is a top asset, a top fantasy, mixing fantasy and regular NFL. He's a top NFL asset. He's a top NFL wide receiver talent. And not having them there is definitely holding Jaxson Dart back. He's still able to run and keep an offense moving, but adding a wide receiver like that is definitely going to help a fantasy quarterback. The Giants also have 2 picks in the top 37. They have pick 5 and pick 37. That should be able to help this team get better just as a football team. And really in fantasy, unless teams are really bad, like or odd situations like Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals, putting up a lot of points in the second half, you want your NFL team to be good for your fantasy options. Fantasy options can be bad on, or can be good on bad teams, but generally when you have a good team, you're going to get a pretty good amount of fantasy options. Let's talk about some of the bad though with Jaxson Dart. We have to use points per game when we're checking his stats. I mentioned he was 14th in points per game because he's missing games. The way that he runs is leading him to get injured through concussions. We may see other things popping up. If you look at a player like Jaden Daniels, who went his rookie season without getting injured as a runner, and then spending a lot of this year injured as a runner, there's not that much difference. The NFL is just a really small sample size. So Jaxson Dart getting hurt in one year doesn't necessarily mean he will be in the next, but these running quarterbacks are just taking more hits than other quarterbacks. And Jaxson Dart missing a lot of games with concussions, consistently being evaluated for concussions with his play style, that is something that has me worried. When we're talking about players that have an injury history or a concussion history, I'm usually on the more positive end. When we're talking about Chris Olave last offseason, I was saying he's not one hit away from his career. You would be one hit away from the end of your career. He's missed some games with concussions. We've seen players have long careers after that. Brandon Cooks is still playing right now in the NFL and who had a long history with concussions. Devontae Adams, I think, had issues with concussions earlier in his career. We could get a year or two away from Chris Olave and say, and just completely stop talking about them. I was pretty also high on Tua, though. I didn't know that the concussions were as likely to repeat. So Olave, they didn't repeat. They didn't repeat for Tua. He just wasn't a very good player. We're not really talking about that enough with Jaxson Dart, a player who's consistently taking hits, leading with his head when he's running. There's a very real chance that he is injured again this year, and I think the market is pretty high on it overall. The other thing I'll say about Jaxson Dart before we look at some real trades involving him is the sample size is small. It's one season. It's not a full season. In the past few years, you only have to look back a couple years to see quarterbacks that after their rookie year, we were really high on and it did not really work out. We've already talked about Jaden Daniels, who we think still has the skills, but that offense is now going to be different. And we've seen the reality of what happens with rushing quarterbacks. They can get hurt. We're not as high on Jaden Daniels anymore. A few years ago, it was CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud was a top 5 startup asset. He's now around QB. I haven't checked, but I would put him in the late teens if we're looking at dynasty value. He's still very young. He just doesn't produce as much for fantasy as we thought he would. That could be the possibility with Jaxson Dart. On the positive side, Drake May. People were really high on Drake May last year after his rookie year, and that did work out. So sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Typically, in the offseason, try to get to a safer asset. So with that said, let's take a look at some of the trades that have been happening with Jaxson Dart, and we'll talk through what we think of them. I've got the scoring settings on here with each individual trade, and we'll go through a couple. Like here on this first one, Josh Jacobs and Bryce Young on one side, Jaxson Dart, the 307 and the 110 on the other side. I think I'm taking Dart and the 110 here at this point in the offseason. Bryce Young is probably playing with the Panthers at least one more year on the option. And then we don't for sure know what's going to happen with him. I'll take the more locked in situation that Dart's probably the quarterback for the next couple of years. The 110 and 307 though, is that enough to make up for? I still think Josh Jacobs has good value on this deal. I think it's pretty even, and I have a hard time picking which side I really like more, and that's okay with trades. If we go to this one, well, they're not all going to be pretty even. On this side, I like the Jaxson Dart side. 105 in round 2. Just give me Dart, because I know if I have Jaxson Dart, I can get more. I've looked at some of these trades before, but I was also expected to just see trades like this. 110, 111. I think you can get that if you have someone in your league that has those two picks or picks in that range, 109 and 112, 110, 111 as a combination, 108 and 201, 108 and 112. I bet you could get Dart for those two picks, or just get that swap. I bet we're going to see quite a bit of things like that in these trades. Here's another one, Malik Neighbors and a 27 second for a 27 first, Dart and McConkey. I might be taking the first. I might take the side with the first. Dart and McConkey, would I take them for Malik Neighbors? No, I would want a little bit more. If I'm sending Malik Neighbors, I would want a little bit more than Ladd McConkey after a down year and Jaxson Dart, but you're getting a little bit more. You're going from a second to a first. So on this one, I don't know that it's a slam win, but I think I'm giving the slight edge here. Jaxson Dart for the 101. If I can get that, I'll do it. If I can get that, I'll take that, because I think I can do more with the 101 as we get further in the offseason than I know for sure that I could with Jaxson Dart. And it feels, oddly, feels safer. Now you may say, picks miss. Sometimes we get the 101 wrong. I don't have to worry about anyone's opinion of Jaxson Dart if I have the 101. That's kind of my thought process. Is I can take this and trade this for probably more than I could with Dart. I've seen offers of the 101 just going for CeeDee Lamb. I think I would just rather have CeeDee Lamb than Jaxson Dart, and I don't know that I could do Dart for CD. So if I had to go Dart to the 101 and the 101 to CeeDee Lamb, then I'm fine with doing that. Here's another deal. Jaxson Dart, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt for Joe Burrow. Give me Joe Burrow every single time. I don't really have to worry about who Joe Burrow is after a small sample size. I just like him more than Jaxson Dart. And Krosky-Merritt is kind of just a throw-in piece here. I would need, if I was taking the Dart side, I would need a much better running back. I'd probably need, like, if it was Dart and Kyron Williams, I'm much more open to it. Jaxson Dart or Justin Herbert in the 311, I'm taking Justin Herbert. I've seen a long sustained time of Justin Herbert just being a good quarterback, a really talented NFL quarterback. He can run, he can pass the ball. I don't know for sure what Jaxson Dart is after part of one season. So I would go with Justin Herbert, but that one is pretty close. Just Jaxson Dart for a 27 first and Trey Tucker. Give me Jaxson Dart. Here's something I will say right now as we're looking at 27 firsts, and I'm going to say this a lot this offseason. If you look at who we're saying is the 2027 draft class for next year, like who we're projecting as our our first round rookies, it's going to change. The quarterbacks that we thought were going to be getting drafted right now in 2026, they have changed. Fernando Mendoza, who's probably the number one pick in the NFL draft, was not on the radar. The quarterbacks that were on the radar, like Nussmeier and Cade Klubnik, they are no longer considered first-round picks. So when we're looking at a draft class and hyping it up a ton, you're probably better off just bringing it back down and saying, we don't know the future. So when people are really high on something that could happen, I'll typically get out at that high price. Because if it does happen, you just already got paid for it a long time ago and you didn't have to wait. Let's get back to a couple other trades. A 27 first and Ladd McConkey for Dart. That feels about right. I think I could be fine with either side of this deal. Dart, the 109 and 112, we kind of talked about that as I think we're going to see a couple more of those. We'll do some scanning to see if we get any more of those. Jaxson Dart in a third for Justin Herbert. That's just kind of the flip of what we saw and kind of the way that I thought it should be. Dart side should have a little bit more value. I like Herbert more. It's just going to depend on your league and the market. That's about an even swing. The 26 311 for a random 27 third. It's not actually that big of a value difference. Any other ones? Jaxson Dart and Omarion Hampton and the 209. Here's one where I think I just want Hampton. I've seen enough from Omarion Hampton too, and the Chargers offense when they're healthy with Joe Alt and a better offensive line, that I'll take the running back. A more scarce position, I think he will have more value, even in a super flex. And then you're getting more on top. I don't love the 209. I don't think it has that much value, but I probably would have been fine doing these guys straight up. So if I'm getting more with the Hampton side, I'll roll with that. Jaxson Dart and JJ McCarthy. This one just caught my eye. Dart and McCarthy and a first. I don't know if I could do it. Same thing with it. A lot of it is the sample size. I don't know for sure that these guys are the guy. Dart looked okay. He looked good enough. It's more likely that Dart is starting than McCarthy, but this is quite a bit I think this is just the asking price is a bit too high. If I have JJ McCarthy in a 27 first, I'm probably trying to do something else, or I want to have a follow-up trade with Dart where I'm taking McCarthy in a 27 first to get to the 101 this year to get to something else. I could see that path being something I would do, but otherwise I'm not quite sure. Last one we'll look at, Jaxson Dart for Trey Benson and RJ Harvey. Just give me Dart. Just give me Dart on this one. RJ Harvey's probably has a couple good years left in him. He's older prospect, so he's probably got 2-3 more years of RB1, borderline RB1 production. Trey Benson, we hope, has a bounce back from his injury next year. If I could take these assets and just turn them into Jaxson Dart, I like what I could do with Dart way more. I don't even need to really care about the player of Jaxson Dart here. Just looking at the market, I think I could take Jaxson Dart and turn him into a much better package than these two players. Is anyone giving you the first overall pick for RJ Harvey and Trey Benson? Probably not. Someone did get the first overall pick for Jaxson Dart. Same thing that we could say with, is anyone really giving you Hampton in the 209? Maybe. But are you getting close to, maybe this Jamar Chase trade by adding something in on these guys? Probably not. You would have to add quite a bit to Trey Benson and RJ Harvey to get to Jamar Chase, probably something more than Rome Odunze. So if we were just swapping in those two players there, that's about how I like to look at trades. And that's going to bring us to the end on this one. If this has helped you make a trade in your Dynasty League, let me know in the comments. If you have questions about trades you're thinking of making, we are relaunching boombustfantasy.com in February, where you can submit your trades to get them answered on a trade show, to get my thoughts on your trade. If I think we're wrapping things up. Anything else to say on the outro? If there's a specific player you want to see a Dynasty Market Report on, let me know in the comments and we will move them up the list. Right now, we are looking at teams that have been eliminated from the NFL playoffs already so that their market doesn't really change. Like Matthew Golden just had a good game in his playoff matchup, and I think that will change people's opinion of him a little bit. Same thing that we might see with Rome Odunze for the Bears. I'm just thinking of players that are about to play. Thank you very much. We are at the end here, and we'll see you in the next one.